What is going on, guys? My name is Aaron, and this is the Game Day Hour. Welcome back to another episode. And in today's episode, we're going to continue on our NFL journey into Week 5. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a fun episode. I kind of messed around with new artwork, had to revamp some of the cyberpunk themed logos, and we're going to be trying a little slate. We're going to see how it works this episode. If not, I'll continue to work with the bottom lower thirds that I normally work with. But it's going to be a little bit of an interesting episode. Just came off of a fantasy win and a big week of football predicting. So we're going to get to all of that. I hope you guys are ready to enjoy this episode. If you haven't already, please subscribe. But anyways, let's get started. To recap last week's fantasy, I survived a very scary situation. I was up by a lot. To be exact, I was up 143 to somewhere like around 66 points. And this is the scary part. My opponent had 4 players left. I had 1. I had the Chiefs defense, and my opponent had Mahomes, James Conner, the Raiders defense, and Moody, the kicker for San Francisco. Now, they all played great. Every single one of them got double digits. James Conner put up like 25. I was only up by 3. Then some touchdown happened or some extra point or field goal happened. And at one point, I was down 160 to 164. The only reason why I won is 2 things. One, the Chiefs got a few tackles for losses and a sack that got me to 164. And the Raiders gave up 200 total yards, which basically meant that in the last drive for the Browns, they needed 15 yards. They got over 15 yards, and that knocked my opponent down. And I won 164 to 157 over the commissioner. And everybody outside of Rachaad White played amazing. Stroud had 46. Jonathan Taylor had 19, Shaheed 21, Evans 19, Deontay Johnson, who I recently picked up and immediately started, 18, Evan McPherson 13, the Kansas City Chiefs defense 21. Everybody played very well, but I just barely survived. So I'm 2-2, still in 6th place, but playoff position. And now it's time to look ahead to this week. So while this lineup isn't set, this is what we have so far. I am starting Jordan Love. This is the first time Jordan Love is starting for my team since the championship game last year, in which he put up 41 and I won 219 to 114. I'm also having Jonathan Taylor, Rashid Shaheed, Mike Evans, Deebo Samuel, who I also got in that trade, Deontay Johnson, who I picked up, Harrison Butker, and the Chiefs defense. Now, Love is somebody who I expect to go off this week. I don't know if Jonathan Taylor's going to play. So if in the Awakening, if he doesn't play, I have some players ready, just specifically one that's going to start. I'm looking to possibly get Kareem Hunt just to use for a little bit until Pacheco gets back. Shaheed should have a decent game against Kansas City. That's going to be a little bit of a head scratcher for me. Mike Evans is probably going to play even though he's dealing with injury. Deebo should be back. Deontay Johnson hopefully will put up a lot of numbers. And then the Chiefs defense and Harrison Butker, we'll see how they play against that Saints defense, but only time will tell. I think they're going to do fine. But my opponent, who happens to be the same person who I traded with, who also happens to be my dad, has Brock Purdy, who I traded, Derrick Henry, who is scary, Aaron Jones, Chris Godwin, Zach Moss, Jake Ferguson, Brandon Aubrey, and the Seattle Seahawks defense currently. Obviously, there could be moves in the lineup. He's projected to win right now because I have a lot of players injured and a lot of players that are supposed to get low points, and my defense isn't supposed to get a lot of points either. I was projected to lose last week, and I did fine. So hopefully this week we can get to a 3-2 start. By the time last year at week 5, I was 1-3, and I never lost a game after that. So week 5 is hopefully a turnaround week for me. But yeah, this is the fantasy situation. I hope everything goes right. And eventually I'm going to start getting guys back. Jonathan Taylor shouldn't be out for a while if he does go out. Nick Chubb is close to being available and ready to go. And when he's fully in the lineup, he's going to be a full-time starter. Hopefully we're getting around to Pacheco getting back. A.J. Brown is going to be out this week, only just because it's a bye week. But I think next week he'll be back in the lineup, which will be fun. So we're just getting over the injury woes, but we should be clicking soon. Now it's time to get into the predictions. Last week, I went 12-4 in predictions, way better than the prior 2 weeks in which I had a combined record of like 15-17. Turned it around, so now my overall record is 39-25. But now we have bye weeks, so obviously there's not going to be a lot of games to look over. So we're going to start with the NFL London game between the New York Jets and the Minnesota Vikings. The Jets were the worst team, in my opinion, last week. I mean, I don't know how you get beaten by a Denver Broncos team that had -7 passing yards in the first half. It was just clearly not good football. Nothing was going right for them. Their defense did well, not good enough, apparently, because the offense could not get anything going. And it just really puts into question the legitimacy of Robert Saleh. I don't think he's a great head coach. I think that he's holding the Jets back in a way. You saw that camera move. That's probably because my dog bumped it a little bit. As for the Vikings, I mean, wow. 4-0, one of two teams that are still undefeated, the other being Kansas City. And with Minnesota, what's so impressive is that even with Sam Darnold, it just seems like everything is clicking. Offensively, they are very sound. They almost gave up a big lead and almost lost to the Packers last week, but they played great. This one's really simple. The Jets are they're questionable. They're not consistent, but the Vikings are. I have the Vikings going 5-0 and winning against the New York Jets 21-14. I just think that the Jets defense is great. And while I think Aaron Rodgers can get this going, I just think the biggest problem is Robert Saleh. He's not a great offensive coach. He needs to let Aaron Rodgers do what Aaron Rodgers does. And if they can do that, I think that things are going to go very well. The running game needs to get established. But overall, I see the Vikings and their high-powered offense and consistent defense being the key to why they're going to win in London and move to 5-0. Next up, we have the 1-3 Carolina Panthers versus the 2-2 Chicago Bears. So I think that Caleb Williams had his best game last week against the Rams, but that also doesn't hold any weight because the Rams have one of the worst pass defenses in all of football. They actually have one of the worst defenses overall. So it's really hard for me to want to pick the Bears because of that, because anybody can pass on the Rams. But this is the Panthers we're talking about. Andy Dalton is the right pick for Carolina. I mean, despite the fact that they lost to Cincinnati last week, I mean, the Bengals were due for one. They still did really well, put up 24 points. I mean, I had Deontay Johnson. He put up 18 points. He played amazing. This is a really, really close matchup, but it's also one of these matchups where I think that Andy Dalton is going to show off some of his magic. And this is kind of like a homecoming because he was in Chicago when they first drafted Justin Fields. So I feel like this is kind of a minor revenge game. Give me the Panthers in an upset to win 24-23 over Chicago. The Bears' defense is great. Is their offense great, though? I don't know, and that's where I am a little bit questionable. I think the Panthers have upgraded their offense just a little bit. Andy Dalton was the right choice, and now Deontay Johnson has gotten into the mix, and he's become a legitimate threat of a wide receiver. When you give him the right quarterback, that's what's going to happen. Give me the Panthers to win this one. Next up, we have a big-time matchup in the AFC North. The 2-2 Baltimore Ravens versus the 1-3 Cincinnati Bengals. They both came off winning weeks, but the Ravens, I mean, they absolutely butchered Buffalo, and they were the best team in my opinion. Even though Detroit had themselves a really good Monday night, I have to give it to Baltimore to be the best team because, man, they ran over. Derrick Henry had 199 rushing yards, including an 83-yard rushing touchdown. That's just sick. That is amazing, and I'm about to face him. As for the Bengals, I mean, you finally got your first win, but it was by 10 points over the Carolina Panthers, so there's not much weight there. You guys played better, but you're playing against Baltimore. However, this has always been a high-scoring, fun matchup to watch, and so you have to kind of flip a coin on this one. They're both very similar teams, and I think they're both going to be very effective. I'm going to go with the Ravens to win 30-28. I think you can go either way, and I wouldn't argue with you. But Baltimore is on a hotter streak, and that win against Buffalo was proof that they are still one of the best teams in the AFC North. So I'm going to go with the Ravens to win this one. A pair of 1-3 and very underwhelming teams meet when the Miami Dolphins and the New England Patriots face off. I have to say I am disappointed in both teams. New England looked fun in week 1. They beat the Bengals, and I was like, oh, maybe there's new life in New England. No. You had a close game against Seattle, which looked great, but then you flopped against the Jets and you flopped against the Niners. Two great teams, but still you flopped. As for the Dolphins, not necessarily all their fault. They don't have Tua. And Tua, I know he's kind of cleared concussion protocol. They're still going to look over a neurologist before he gets back, but no quarterback is doing well in Miami. They've combined for 15 points, and it's just so underwhelming. They look out of pocket. I cannot see Miami winning this game. Without Tua, I think the Dolphins are a cursed team. Give me the Patriots, despite the fact that their offense isn't stellar, to win 16-14. No Tua, no way. I don't care if you have Tyreek Hill. You need a quarterback who's going to throw to him. And neither Skyler or Huntley are worth that kind of chance. It should be Tua, and if it's not going to be Tua, don't expect the Dolphins to win. Give me the Patriots. Next up, we have the 1-3 Cleveland Browns versus the 3-1 Washington Commanders. Whoa, where did Washington come from? This is one of the hottest teams in all of football. Big win against the Bengals and a big win against the Cardinals. Jaden Daniels looks like not only the offensive rookie of the year, but potentially an MVP candidate. We might need to have a conversation about it. I know they don't really give it to MVPs, but right now with how everything is going, he looks like a prime MVP product. As for Cleveland, I mean, it's just so disappointing. I mean, they helped me in my fantasy, but they're such a disappointing team. They just do not look like a football team that is ready to win. And while Deshaun Watson is the starter, I do not believe that they are a team that is going to make the playoffs. If all stays the same, Deshaun Watson is starting, it's still going to be a high-scoring affair, but give me the Commanders to win 34-20. I trust Jaden Daniels a lot more. I think that he right now has shown he's the best quarterback in this most previous draft, and I don't think anybody can argue that point. You're not going to say Bo Nix, and you're not going to say Caleb Williams right now. Jaden Daniels is balling, and very deservedly. I said he'd win a Rookie of the Year. Right now, I'm confident in that pick. The most confident I am in any pick. Next up, we have the 2-2 Indianapolis Colts versus the only winless team in all of football right now, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the Colts, I don't know who's going to be starting at quarterback, and I also don't know if Jonathan Taylor is going to play. With those factors, everything feels a little bleak. But Jacksonville, I don't know what's going on with the Jaguars. They can't do anything right. They can't get anything going, and it's just very disappointing. I'm going to say it really doesn't matter who the starting quarterback is for the Colts because I like the Colts' chances a lot better. I'm going to go with Indianapolis to win 27-23. I just think that Jacksonville does not have any answers right now, and they're just looking for ways to answer their own questions. I don't know what they have to do. There's some games where I felt like that got away from them, and other games they just don't look impressive at all. They lost games against the Dolphins that they should have won, and even against Houston, I mean, it's tough, but I'm going to go with the Colts. Next up, and I'm surprised this is not an afternoon game, a pair of 3-1 teams, the Buffalo Bills and the Houston Texans. This is a beautiful matchup. I really, really like this one. Now, I don't believe I'll have anyone starting. I have Stroud on the bench. I don't think he's going to do well against Buffalo, or at least as well as I'd hope. Houston, despite the fact they're being 3-1, they have not looked that impressive in any of their games. I mean, a lot of them have been close scoring affairs, and their one loss was a blowout. I don't know what to think about this. And it also doesn't help that Buffalo, despite the fact they just got hammered by Baltimore, looks like they are one of the best offensive teams in all of football. I think this is going to be a close game because I do think Houston could find spark, but I'm going to go with the Bills to win 28-27. Houston needs to blow a team out. I think that they're looking for a team that they can just blow out of the waters because I don't know how you continue playing close right now, but I'm going to go with Buffalo to win, and they're still one of the best teams in the NFL. It's really hard to go against. Next up, we have 500 teams playing. We got the Raiders and the Broncos in a rivalry match. This is so boring. Both teams are just a daze. I want to fall asleep to them. The Raiders, they played very close with the Browns. You still won, but still a snooze fest. But Denver's been kind of surprising, blowing out the Buccaneers and then slightly beating the Jets. I don't know how they're getting these wins. It's like miracle wins, but I think that this game is going to be very close. I don't expect to be high scoring at all because I think these are very elite defenses that we're looking at. The offensive matchup is just going to be so boring, and I'm not planning on really watching much. I don't have anybody starting in either of these games for fantasy. I'm going to have to go with the Broncos because they're the one on the streak, and they're the one that looks really, really good despite the fact that they haven't been playing their best. So I'm going to go with Denver 16-13. I just think that the Raiders, they're very inconsistent right now. So I'm going to go with the Broncos. Next up, we have the 1-3 Arizona Cardinals versus the 2-2 San Francisco 49ers. Now, the good news for San Francisco is, I think with Kittle second week back and then Deebo Samuel second week back, they're going to be a lot healthier. Their biggest problem now is that McCaffrey looks like he's going to be out a little bit longer because now that pain's reached the other ACL, and I don't know how this is happening. It's so unfortunate because McCaffrey is such a great player. As for the Cardinals, I mean, they looked good in their first 2 weeks. Now they're just kind of there. They're not doing too much. They're kind of looking like the Arizona Cardinals we expected going into this year. I'm going to go with the 49ers to win. It's in San Francisco, and despite McCaffrey being out, I mean, Mason's doing great, and we already know that Debo and Kittle are going to come to the party, and Purdy's probably going to have a really good game against Arizona. 31-21. It's still going to be pretty close, but high scoring as well. So there's the threat. I will go ahead and place a lot of bet on San Francisco to win this game because that just feels natural. I don't know how you pick Arizona in this case, but who knows? Anything can be possible on any given Sunday. Next up, we got the 2-2 Green Bay Packers and the 1-3 Los Angeles Rams. I did not expect the Packers to pull out that kind of comeback, but then again, it is easier to play from behind because you have nothing to lose. The Rams, I mean, I don't know what to make of them. Everybody wants to keep saying this is such a great team, that this is going to be a team that's hard to beat. Without their two big players together, it's really hard for me to want to pick the Rams at all, and their defense is laughable. The Packers are going to get in a rhythm. Jordan Love is probably going to have an incredible year. I have the Packers winning this one 31-16. I think Love is going to light up LA, and it's really easy for me to pick this one because what have the Rams done to impress me? A comeback victory versus the 49ers, who were down a lot of players? No. Give me the Packers to win. Next up, we have the 3-1 Seattle Seahawks hosting the 1-3 New York Giants. These teams are so polar opposites. The Giants' offense sucks. The Seahawks' offense is great. Defensively, I mean, the Giants have a good defense, and the Seahawks have a pretty good defense as well. It's in Seattle. It's very easy for me. Geno Smith with the Seahawks has always been a little bit impressive, especially way more than any other team he's ever played for, and that's the biggest surprise because I don't even know how he's had a revival in his career. But the other one who doesn't have a revival in sight is Daniel Jones. I don't think Daniel Jones is a good quarterback. The Giants really need to think long and hard about tanking, potentially, just letting the season go by, and drafting a quarterback from Malik Neighbors to have, because Daniel Jones is not it. I have no faith in the Giants to win this game. Give me the Seahawks to win 34-14. I mean, despite the fact that they gave up a lot against the Detroit Lions, those games are generally high scoring, and Detroit is tough to play, and especially tougher in those uniforms. Did you see those Lions uniforms and their helmets? Those are the best uniforms I've ever seen, and that's not an over exaggeration. I could not believe how amazing they looked. Good job, Detroit. I love them. But sidetrack. Give me the Seahawks to win 34-14. I mean, I expect DK, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith-Jigba to just have a field day. I don't see the Giants stopping them. So, easy picks. Sunday Night Football is between the 2-2 Dallas Cowboys and the 3-1 Pittsburgh Steelers. As a Cowboy fan, I am not at all pleased with this team. I don't care that we won Thursday night. We beat a Giants team we were supposed to beat, but not by a lot. So that is very depressing. Micah Parsons is probably going to be out. D-Law is going to be out for a while. Dak Prescott has not taken a step up offensively. The run game can't get established, even though you should definitely start Ezekiel Elliott, not Rico Dowdle. I don't know what's going on there. I mean, CeeDee Lamb, he showed up to the party. He looked great against New York, but the O-line makes me very mad. Everything about the Cowboys outside of Lamb makes me very frustrated. And for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, you suffered your first loss, but I'm not worried. Your defense did not play great. Justin Fields needs to do a lot better. I think this is a really good game for Pittsburgh because Dallas can't do much against great opponents. And against great defenses, they're no threat. I'm going to have, regrettably, my Cowboys losing to Pittsburgh 23-16. I just think that Dallas's defense is going to be shredded. The run game is going to be tough. Najee's probably going to have a field day. The only reason why it stays close is because Dak in these kind of environments does play very good. But I don't know. It sucks because I want to pick the Cowboys by nature, but I can't. Everybody knows that the Cowboys are pretenders and they're probably not going to win the Super Bowl this year. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. And then Monday night, we have the 2-2 New Orleans Saints versus the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs. New Orleans had one of the biggest highs in the first 2 weeks, and now they're on the lows of lows. They lost in 2 close games, but pretty low scoring, to Philly and Atlanta. As for Kansas City, they're still undefeated, but they're getting shredded offensively as far as injuries goes. I mean, you just lost Rashee Rice. Pacheco's not coming back till week 9. So what do you have? Mahomes, Kelsey, which is always great. But Worthy's your best wide receiver right now, even though I think he's going to be just fine. And your number 1 running back is Kareem Hunt. So there's a lot of issues. I'm not saying anything bad about Kareem Hunt, but everybody wants Pacheco in this case. It's really tough though to pick New Orleans because they're on a bad slope, and you're going in the Arrowhead on prime time against Mahomes. That's not going to work out for you. When I look at this defense, I mean, the Chiefs defense has been so impressive this year. There's nothing bad to say about them. They have looked amazing. The only thing is I want Rashee Rice to be the offensive player for the Saints to do well, but I think he's the only one who is going to do well, and everybody else is probably going to do pretty sorry. Give me the Chiefs in a close one, 20-13. Arrowhead, home field advantage. You got Mahomes, you got Kelsey, and the Saints don't. So that one's simple. Go with Kansas City. And that'll do it for today's episode. I am happy with the artwork, the new stuff. I hope that it looks better when I edit it and put it in. Potentially, I'll probably go back to having that bottom strip if I don't like how this looks. But overall, I have to be very pleased with this. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. And if you do, please leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. Be sure to go follow me on my social media platforms, and be sure to interact with me on YouTube Shorts. Wish me luck in fantasy. I just hope to get to 3-2 because winning would push me high up into the rankings, and I need some cushion room. I don't like being at that 6th spot because even though you make the playoffs, you're not in the best position to win it. We need these players to stop getting injured. I need players to start getting healthy. Chubb is on his way. Hopefully Taylor is healthy and good to go. And then more players need to come to the party. AJ Brown needs to stop being hurt. Overall, anyway, that'll do it for me. And that'll do it for me. I hope you guys have a great day. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.